Hey everybody, and welcome to Meals with Melissa, where I come up with healthy versions of things that you love to eat. Now, I apologize, I'm still working on the whole how to make lighting work, and I just couldn't quite block out that sun right there, but that's okay because it's so beautiful outside right now, and I'm super excited to go outside and work today. Okay, so here's how I came up with today's option. You know, I've had a lot of people lately struggling with what else can I do for breakfast? I've also had some people with really incredible sweet tooths, which I would be one of them. But what I'd like to say is it doesn't have to be unhealthy. And one of the best things to do are pick things that you really do like to eat and then find healthier versions of them. So one of my best tips on that is instead of a candy bar, make something from scratch, because at least you know what's going into it and that you're at least getting semi-healthy ingredients. So what I've got for you today is a chocolate peanut butter protein oatmeal bake. And like I said, is it breakfast? Is it dessert? Is it even healthy? Well, it's definitely a healthier version of than a lot of things out there. And I do have a lot of clients that do have sweet tooths, and there's some of us that just love chocolate, add peanut butter, and we're hooked, right? So great opportunity to make something that will work great for all of the above. Now, it is not super low carb, but it is complex carbs. So that's a little bit different than using sugars and things like that. We are using some natural ingredients. Now, really quickly before I get started, I want to tell you that just because you don't think that you have a sweet tooth, that does not mean you're not a carbohydrate addict. And what I mean by that is if you tend to eat a lot of breads and pastas, what do you think those turn to immediately as it hits your tongue? And the saliva with the enzyme that breaks down carbohydrates, you get that little sweet taste right there. Anything with flour in it or processed grains is going to turn immediately to glucose in your system. So keep in mind that just because you are a savory person, if you tend to eat a lot of breads, pastas, even potato chips, you guys, of course those were horrendous for you, but you know, you're kind of into the sugars, right? Okay, so this is a really great option. It is super, super easy. So I've got my oven preheating to 350 and just a few ingredients, super fast, throw it in the oven. Okay, so I'm gonna take half a cup of rolled oats. Now, if you use quick oats, it's gonna bake faster, so keep that in mind. I use rolled oats because it breaks down a little slower in your system into glucose. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. I'm going to add 1.5 scoops of vanilla protein powder. Now, this is my favorite. This is the one I carry. I carry it because it's clean and it tastes good. Now, this is a whey isolate. You know, it really depends on what you're using as to how it's gonna cook out. Some don't turn out so great when you try to bake with them or heat them up. So just keep that in mind. This one works just fine. This is the one I also use for my protein pancake. So I'm gonna do 1.5 scoops of vanilla protein powder. Okay, I'm doing the dry ingredients first, if you can't tell. Okay, all right, to that, let's put that out of the way there. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder. Now, you can also use the special dark, whatever. I'm just using a Dutch processed, and so that's going to go in there as well. Now, if you choose to use a chocolate protein powder, you may just need to add a little more protein powder if you're not going to use unsweetened cocoa powder. Okay, so got that in there. To that, I'm also gonna add 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. That's our leavening agent for this. Washing my hands a little bit so I don't get cocoa everywhere. I find it funny that people, you know, you can turn something chocolate, just add unsweetened cocoa powder. Trust me, it has no sweet in it. If you taste it, it is super, super bitter. So just a great option. I sometimes will use that even with my protein shakes if I don't have chocolate on hand. Personally on this brand, I don't particularly love the chocolate of them, and I'm a chocolate person, so that's a little weird, but I can add some cocoa powder and it makes it an amazing chocolate protein powder, right? Okay, so 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, now I'm gonna mix that up. Okay, I'm just gonna mix up the dry ingredients before I add some of the other ingredients there. All right, the next thing I'm going to add is canned pumpkin. Now, don't do pumpkin pie. That's gonna be different, and it also has sugar in it. That is not what we're looking for. This is a little bit of our moist ingredients, but it's also some of our sweetness, right? With not really a lot of it, not a lot of fat. That we're gonna add that with peanut butter, but it's a good substitute for oil, right? The benefit too is, well, first of all, vegetable oil is horrible for you. Fascinating how many people follow that commercial and go, but it's heart healthy. Oh no, honey, they process that with chemicals. Okay, so, but it's better. I personally think it's a little bit better option than applesauce, depending on how that applesauce is produced. So, all right, so to that I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of canned pumpkin. Just gonna measure that out. Trust me, I've already made a batch of this. You know me, I check it out first. Okay, so I'm gonna add that. I'm not gonna mix it yet because I'm gonna need to add 3 wetter ingredients to make it mix okay. All right, also to that, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. Now you can add any nut butter that you choose. Almond butter is great. I like to, when I do almond butter, I like to grind my own at a local store that we have here. So that works out great. But when I do peanut butter, I do Adams All Natural. I personally like the creamy, I don't know, it's a texture thing. But it's great because it's no sugar added, right? So that usually is my choice. And I usually have multiple jars on hand. Now, I do mix these in advance. When you get the Adams, they do come with the oil at the top, and you do want to mix it very, very well. Or by the time you get to the bottom, it's going to be completely dried out. So I'm the weirdo that dumps it out in a great big bowl and gets her hand mixer out as I open the next jar and mixes it and then dumps it back in the jar so that it's mixed really well. And I just did that this morning. So just opened a brand new jar. This is my jar, so I'm putting my fingers in it. Get over it. I'm the one that's going to eat it, so I'm okay with that. And they're clean. I wash my hands. All right. One more. All right. And to that, I'm actually going to add a 1/3 cup, I believe. I'm just making sure. 1/3 cup of nut milk. Okay, and again, you can use whatever kind of milk you choose. I personally would not use regular milk because, of course, lots of lactose, which is sugar. I'm also extremely lactose intolerant. Yeah, like painfully. So I don't tend to do a whole lot of milk. If you are going to do regular milk, you're best off, honestly, is whole milk. It's the least processed. I know. Completely opposite of what you were told when you were young. We used to drink skim milk, which is gross. It just tastes like watered down milk. But it's also more processed, so it's not as good for you. Personally, at my house, we tend to use a lot of unsweetened almond milk. But today, I actually have unsweetened macadamia nut milk. So they carried it at Costco, and a good friend of mine brought me some, and I was like, okay, I'll use that in my coffee as creamer. So I'm gonna add a 1/3 cup of, ta-da, macadamia milk. So again, that's your wet ingredients to make sure that your mixture is gonna actually mix well. All right, so I'm gonna do that. Now, this particular recipe calls for a cast iron skillet. Honestly, it's supposed to be a small one, like 6.5 inches. I actually took the opportunity because I wanted a smaller cast iron skillet, and I went and got the smallest one I could find, which was 8 inches locally. So smidge more than that. I'm gonna use that today, but you don't have to use a cast iron anything. Now, if any of you have a cast iron Dutch oven you wanna get rid of, please call me. I'm looking for that too. Love camping, so ready to do some fun stuff with that. All right, we're gonna add this. Okay, I'm gonna mix it up really well. And then I'm actually, for this one, I'll show you the one I made. I did make it in my cast iron skillet, but this particular one, because I don't have 2 and I have this other one ready to show you, I'm going to put it into an oven-safe casserole dish. I'm gonna add just a smidge more milk because this is running a little thicker than I would like it. Okay, honestly, I just wanna get it mixed really well. And realize that, of course, depending on the consistency of the peanut butter, you may need to adjust just a little bit. The best part of these is if you love the recipe and you need to adjust something to work for you, you can, right? Back to the milk really quick. You can use oat milk, you can use cashew milk. It's really up to you. Not a fan of soy milk. Realize soy can actually mess with your hormones a little bit, especially in large quantities. So we tend to not do a lot of soy at my house at all. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in my casserole dish, and I'm gonna add an extra ingredient because I can, right? All right, so I've got this ready to go. Now, when I use the cast iron pan, I actually did a little bit of butter in it. It comes seasoned, but I'm going to go ahead and do that each time I use it. I know about cast iron. Okay, I'm gonna add this to my casserole dish, and I'm gonna throw it in the oven. It's at 350. Now, because it's a casserole dish, not a cast iron skillet, the timing's gonna differ just a little bit, and I haven't quite figured that out. With the cast iron, it took me about 14 minutes. It's anywhere from 12 to 15. And it also depends on if you like it gooey, like oatmeal, or if you like it a little more solid, like a breakfast cookie. Either way is fine. There is nothing in here that if it's a little more gooey, there's no eggs, there's no nothing that can spoil and cause a safety concern. All right, I'm gonna grab a rubber spatula here, just because I hate to waste, right? I actually grew up in the era of there are starving children around the world, finish your food. So I hate waste, I just do. All right, so I'm gonna put that in there, I'm gonna smooth it out, and I'm gonna pop it in the oven. Now, before I do that, I'm also going to add my favorite, now these are gonna be upside down because I ripped them open wrong. Lily's semi-sweet chocolate chips. Now what I love about these is that they don't contain added sugars, and the sweetness that they do use is not sucralose nor aspartame, it is actually stevia. Now they are a little pricey, so keep that in mind. I don't do a ton of these, but I do love them. These are the semi-sweet ones. There are a dark chocolate option that have even less carbs in them. So it really kind of comes down to what your macros are, what your goals are. But also, you know, realize too that I'm very aware that sometimes if you have to never have the things that you love, like chocolate's my gig, right? If you have to never have the things that you love, sometimes it makes it really difficult to stay within a healthy lifestyle. And that's really what this is. It's a healthy lifestyle, not a short-term goal that I'm gonna go back to the garbage I was doing before. I'm trying to live like this so that I can be healthy and happy and have a really great quality of life and longevity. Okay, so I'm gonna put that in there. It's hard to see. It's not super tall in there, but it's gonna bake up just a little bit with the baking powder. Now, I'm gonna add just a few of these chocolate chips to it because again, plus once it cools off, it gives it a little bit of a crunchy texture when you bite into the chocolate chips, and I love that part of it. Here's the other thing you can do to it. Once you're done, you can actually do a tablespoon of peanut butter and a few of these chocolate chips and melt it down and use it as a drizzle, right? So again, you can make this an incredible, beautiful looking dessert, or it can be breakfast, and it's way better for you than a lot of things that you could eat for breakfast by tradition, right? Pancakes with pure maple syrup, woo! That's diabetes right there. All right. So I've worked with a lot of diabetic clients, and the one thing I will tell you is that it makes a big difference. My frustration is diabetes is one of the most preventable and almost always reversible diseases out there. It is not chronic, but you have to know what it's about. And I find that most of my clients who have diabetes have not gotten any information or education from a nutritionist, and that makes zero sense to me considering it is a nutrition disease, right? So I don't get it, but you know, with the way I'm watching the world today, kind of not surprised, unfortunately. We're just not taught the correct things. Okay, so I'm gonna throw that in the oven for about 12 to 15 minutes. Let me show you the one that I did in the cast iron skillet. It looks so pretty. You know when you go to the restaurants and they make that like brownie or whatever? That's actually what it looks like. It just looks like an absolutely lovely, gorgeous brownie in there. And I'm just gonna take a fork and eat it. Now I'm not eating the whole thing. This is not one serving, but it's warm, it's gooey, it's gonna be awesome. So if you're looking for something, you need something sweet that's not super horrible for you. You need something extra for breakfast, you need a good idea. It's not a bad option. You know I'm gonna put the recipe down below. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, it should be also down below included as well. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I do have someone upload all of these to YouTube when I'm done with the recipe, so you can go back and see all of the wonderful recipes that I've done before. Honestly, I also make sure that I give credit where credit is due, and so I will post where I got this down below. I tell you, Pinterest is your friend. So if you try this and you love it, you know what, let me know. Also, if you have a really great recipe that you think everybody would love as well, share it. That's how we make this community work, is we share our great ideas, and that way we can support each other and we can also all learn to live the healthy lifestyle together. So have an incredible Saturday, you guys. It's beautiful out. It's a little windy over here, but I absolutely am gonna be outside for today. So have a great week. This Wednesday, there will be a Q&A Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll have a great topic. I'm just answering the questions that you have about your health and fitness goals. I love you all. Be safe and healthy, my friends. Bye-bye now.